Hello everybody, warm welcome back to True to Form with myself, Sam Turner. Thanks very much for joining me for this week's edition, the last one of the season as well. We're going to finish with a crescendo, hopefully, at Sandown, where the Trainers' Championship will go down to the last throws of one or two dices, I would imagine, with Mullins and Skelton running plenty of horses across the weekend and in the preceding days at Perth, etc. So that looks set for a fascinating climax. Hopefully I'll be able to find you some winners from Sandown on Saturday as well. We'll go through all 7 races, and I've already got a couple of nice bets marked out, and fingers crossed we can find some winners for you to end the season on a high. So without wasting further time, let's get on with that opener at Sandown on Saturday. So the initial point to make perhaps about Saturday is, what's the ground going to be like? Well, currently I think it's good ground. I think it's been well watered. I think there's been over 50 mil of precipitation added to the track by clerk of the course Andrew Cooper, who's got a good reputation for producing lovely ground at Sandown. There are 1 or 2 showers in the forecast on Wednesday, but that's probably about all that we're going to get in natural help. So I would imagine that top of the ground spring horses are going to be well favoured Saturday, although there'll be plenty of juice there for them. I don't think it's going to suit the soft ground lovers by any stretch. And I think that needs to be factored into calculation. Certainly is in the 150, the novices handicap hurdle, where Give It To Me OJ would be the number 1 pick here. He's off a mark of 137 here, which I think reflects well on his ability. He was 4th, of course, in the Grade 1 anniversary hurdle at Aintree, 4th to Mercia, ran a blinder that day at a big price. Didn't jump 2 out particularly well, was a bit novice-y at the last, and that probably cost him 3rd place. I think Put Your Hands Together just ran past him, and other than that, may well have been in the frame. Obviously, then he went for little more than a schooling round at Huntingdon in beating 2 pretty average rivals quite cosily. There was plenty left in the tank at the line there, as you would expect for something that was set off at 25 to 1 on. But he does handle good ground. He goes well right-handed. That was a little bit more of an experience accrued there at Huntingdon. He jumped pretty well in the main. And although he wasn't flat out to win that day, fingers crossed that's just put him cherry ripe for Sandown on Saturday. I think he's 10 to 1 at the moment in the village. I think that's a very fair price for a horse that has run so well this spring and clearly loves the ground. Now, there looks an absolute plethora of front runners in this race on Saturday, this 150. We're Red and Blue being another one of those. Now, he is 33 to 1 at the moment at time recording. I think that's a very fair price really for a horse that finished 8th in the Imperial Cup, only beaten 5 lengths. If you look back through his form as well, pre-Christmas, he beat Jet to Vegas at Carlisle, which I thought was a really good run. Now he does face some pace pressure here from Big Ginge, Peace Nick, St Pancras, to name but 3. And that could be a bit of an issue for We're Red and Blue, but I do think at 33 to 1 he's worth a small investment here. On the good ground, he obviously goes well at Sandown. He only gave way late on in the Imperial Cup. I thought it was a really good effort, and 33s for him just looks a touch too big for a horse without too many convictions, and one that's still very much on the upgrade. So those are the 2 for the first race then, the 150. Give It To Me OJ 10 to 1, We're Red and Blue 33s. So race 2 on Saturday is the 2 mile 6 Oaksey Chase, the Bet365 Oaksey Chase, to give it its proper title. And favourite here is Gaelic Warrior in the anti-post market, and it's easy to understand why after that tremendously impressive win at Aintree in the Golden Miller. Really sparkling effort that, both jumping wise and sectional time wise. I think he was only a second slower than Sans Brut in the 2 mile handicap. And that was from the 4 furlong marker, so he's really trapping coming home. It was easy to see why he picked up the main protagonist that day with a sparkling effort, really, as I say, from the home turn. Now, he's only been beaten once right-handed in 6 starts, and that was by Ilete Tomp at Punchestown last year, where he could well have been a little bit over the top. Ilete Tomp as well was arriving at Punchestown off the back of that Grade 1 win, where he beat Ginny's Destiny by 9 lengths at Aintree, so it's not bad form at all. And with Gaelic Warrior being a fresher horse than most, going back right-handed, this interim trip as well looks perfect for him. He's got speed, he's got stamina, and obviously he loves going right-handed, so this looks an absolute perfect fit for him. I think if Ilete Tomp does run here, I think he's definitely worth a saver at a big price. I see him as big as 10 to 1 at time of recording. I think that's a very fair price. Obviously, we haven't seen him since Punchestown 360 odd days ago. But he is a horse that goes quite well fresh, quite a buzzy horse if you remember, gets himself ready you would imagine, and I think if he does run here rather than the Celebration Chase, He is worth a small saver, I think, at 10 to 1 if he's going to be that price. Anyway, we're playing Willie Mullins bingo at this stage of the week, unfortunately, so I couldn't be dogmatic with my views. But Gaelic Warrior, pretty sound selection, I think, for this race, and Dilette Tomp would be the main danger if he does face the starter. 3 o'clock then is the Celebration Chase, or the Bet365 Celebration Chase, in which John Bon has been Antipost favourite for some time. He's 8 to 11 on the back of that Aintree performance where he beat Protector up by 3.5 lengths and bounced back from that untimely error, of course, in the Champion Chase at Cheltenham, which saw him run really well to finish second, but ultimately well beaten by Marine Nationale. Now he's 7 from 7 going right-handed, this horse. 5 from 5 at Sandown. If you thought Aintree was his kingdom, then Sandown, well, certainly is the king of the castle there, because his stats are absolutely astonishing there. He is 8 to 11. He's a horse that does take a little bit of knowing, John Bon, and does take a little bit of riding. So there are 1 or 2 question marks at him at this stage of the week. Not least, we don't know what Willie Mullins is going to run against him. Now, if he runs Dilette Tomp, he'd have a squeak, obviously, for the reasons mentioned earlier. But Impere Pass is a very, very interesting contender against him. Obviously, he bounced back to form in that classy 2 mile 3 race at Aintree, winning very smoothly there and showing a right good turn of foot to go and win on that occasion. 54.94 from the 4 furlong marker for Impere Pass. Absolutely trapping. A second quicker than the 2 milers, the experienced 2 mile handicap chasers later on the card, and 10 lengths quicker than Gaelic Warrior from the same point. So those are obviously quite compelling stats for him. Even more so, perhaps, is the fact that Paul Townend's ridden him 9 times and has won on him 8 occasions, only beaten by Tiupu in the Hatton's Grace of 2023. So Paul has obviously got great synchronicity with Impere Pass, and he's a very interesting horse if he does take in this race over 2 miles and doesn't go to Punchestown. Now, connections will be certainly closely watched and monitored as to which races they do go for, because he's around about the same price both for this race and also a couple of entries at Punchestown. So as we know, Willie Mullins is often guided by the market and what prices his horses are and what position they are in the market, and he's a similar price in all 3 markets in Impere Pass. So really it's difficult to gauge where he is going to run, but if he takes a chance here, I think, you know, sort of 4 to 1, 7 to 2, even if he's backed into those sort of odds or shortened up to those sort of odds when he's fully committed for the race, I still think that is a relatively good value bet. For those of you who like a more speculative bet at sort of around 40s or 50s with the 3 places, if you want to play anti-post, then Brookie could be a bit of fun. He comes from a yard in pretty good order. They had a winner again at Plumpton on Monday afternoon. He was second to Khalif de Burle, who's my idea of a real Queen Mother Champion Chase contender next year. He was beaten 3.5 lengths there, but he does cope very well right-handed. He's already won at Sandown, albeit in minor company this year, beating Classic Anthem. And I think he's a type of horse that could go very well here at a big price. Now, I'm not saying he's going to win this race, but he could easily poke into third if the race cuts up a little bit and Willie doesn't run all of these battalions. And that could offer a little bit of a fun each way bet at 50 to 1 with 3 places on Brookie. Well, with 15 of the 34 confirmations on Monday in the Bet365 Gold Cup, Willie Mullins has obviously got the race by the short and curlies. But trying to predict what he's going to run is almost a thankless task, really. So I've tried to go through the race methodically. There's 1 or 2 horses that have got entries at Perth this week. They're also at Punchestown. It's very difficult to gauge, really, which of those 15 are actually going to take their chance. And obviously Keita Bourbon, one of the runners, I think he's sort of 6th in the list. He obviously ran in the Irish National on Easter Monday, so he's not going to run again, you wouldn't think. Although Hotwell did win the Scottish National, then 7 days later won this race some time ago. But let's pick out 2 or 3 at big prices. These are probably ones that I'm going to have a look at playing. Minella Kakuna, who's obviously one of my chief fancies for the Grand National. A little bit unlucky, saddle slipped at an early stage. That possibly contributed to 1 or 2 errors. Now, it was only 26 days between him winning or running in the Irish National, behind Intense Raffles, finishing 4th, and then coming on and winning this race narrowly last year. Now, he was only 17 to 2 for this race last year. He's 20 to 1 at time of recording, which I think looks a bit of a tall price really for a horse that's already proven around Sandown on good ground. He goes well in a big field, and if he has come out of that race, the Grand National of course, then hopefully he would run here and run well at a big price. Well, certainly 20 to 1 looks a very tall price for a horse that, albeit was a little bit punch drunk on the run-in, but that I think was contributed to by the fact that he made those errors, and with the saddle slipping made Johnny Burke's life pretty difficult. A couple of horses that are probably a bit fresher and haven't been seen for a while. Well, Victorino is an interesting one for Venetia Williams. 33 to 1 at time of recording. I think that's very fair for a horse that's 4 from 6 right-handed. He's 0 from 8 left-handed. He's obviously had a really good season at Ascot. Saw off 300 through 5 in that Betfair chase there. Rallying really gamely to win on that occasion. So I don't think the trip could possibly be a problem here. I think he goes on good ground okay as well. It never really gets too deep at Ascot. He's coped with that fine. He's fresh. He ran really poorly in the Ultima. Things didn't pan out for him that day, but that was left-handed, of course. Wasn't really his cup of tea, but I think going this way round, with the fact that he's had a break as well since Cheltenham, hopefully he'll run really well at 33 to 1. And try not to laugh, and I hope you're sitting down when I say this, but Goshen at 66 to 1 looks a very tall price for me for a horse that absolutely adores Sandown. He's finished first, second, fourth, third and third. And that last third at Sandown, those are all his runs at Sandown by the way, but that last third at Sandown saw him beaten half a length by Ho Jolie Smoke, rallying gamely on the run-in. And Ho Jolie Smoke is a 10 or 12 to 1 chance for this. Goshen's 66 to 1. So I think he's a bit of a fun bet on a day where I could see a little bit of a surprise in this race, I think. Obviously, the number of horses that Willie has in the race make it very difficult to be dogmatic about the race. And the race could take a completely different shape come Saturday lunchtime. But those are the three that I quite like at prices. Minella Kakuna, if he runs, 20 to 1. Victorino, 33 to 1. I see no reason why he won't run. I know he's not jocked up at time recording, but that looks a big price for me with a horse that goes so well right-handed, acts on good ground, and jumps and stays. And Goshen, a bit of a fun bet, 66 to 1 for the old boy. He hasn't had that many starts over fences, just the 5. And I know he can be a bit on and off the bridle, he can nail 1 or 2. These are all things that are factored into the price at 66s. So those are my thoughts for the Bet365 Gold Cup. Well, I won't spend too much time on the Bet365 Select Hurdle because I really just don't know what's going to run in it. Obviously, Lossiemouth is entered and is the clear pick. That's the Mullins version, not the Polygundry one. But the Punchestown Champion Hurdle would surely be her primary target, you would think, this spring. And if that is the case, then Kitzbühel would probably be the main selection for me in this. He didn't get home, did he? He was too keen at Aintree, just literally pulled his way around the contours of Liverpool in that Liverpool hurdle. Previous to that, he'd shown a sharp turn of foot to go and win at Garan. That was a really excellent effort, and the time before as well, he was very impressive. I think the 2.5 with the prospect of a nice gallop on good ground should be absolutely ideal for Kitzbühel if he's allowed to take his chance here. He would certainly be my number 1 pick. And take no chances. A horse that's chased home Lossiemouth a couple of times this spring. In the mare's race, she ran really well to finish 9 lengths behind Lossiemouth. She was well out the back, probably not that well placed as the race panned out, but it was a really good performance from Dan Skelton's mare. And then last time out, she was probably ridden a little bit too aggressively, perhaps, in the Grade 1 Aintree hurdle when finishing 3rd. She just faded on the running. But look, she got placed in a Grade 1. I think Connections certainly achieved what they set out to. She won good prize money as well. But I think if she's given just a normal sort of midfield type ride here, I think she can certainly get into the frame. There aren't any odds at time of recording, unfortunately, but she would probably be my sort of chicken each way bet if there are 3 places on offer here. I think good ground suits her ideally. She travels very well in the races. And the data from that Lossiemouth performance, the one at Cheltenham, was exceptional really. She was really quickening into what was quite a modest gallop that day and really emerged with plenty of credit. Well, Jim Boyle is most renowned for being a very good flat trainer down in Epsom, but he's got a really nice chaser in his hands with classic Anthem. I think he could be the answer to the 4:45, the Josh Gifford Novices Handicap Chase. 2.5 miles on good ground, looks an absolute perfect fit for classic Anthem, who's taken a while just to grow into his shell a little bit. but he is starting to certainly repay that faith that Connections had in him early season, seeing out his races a lot better. And I don't think it's any coincidence as well that since Sean Bowen's got on board, that has certainly seen an improvement in his fortunes. Sean's finished second on him a couple of times and they managed to win on him last time, where a good jump at the last sealed a really comprehensive performance. He's only on a mark of 123, this horse. I still think that's a very advantageous handicap mark. I think he can make some or do some damage from that sort of level, and I think he can go very well in this race. He's yet to really achieve some tremendous data as such, certainly with speed figures in mind, but I don't think he's had the opportunity to, and I think this will be a more truly run race. Hopefully his jumping will stand up to the test that is going to be required of it on Saturday. But I can see Sean, who rode an absolutely beautiful race on Horticolor early on this week in the Irish Grand National, and of course his champion jockey. I can see him excelling on this horse. I think good ground is probably the key to him as well. I think that might help a little bit. They'll go $1 million here, which should suit him as well. I'll be disappointed if he doesn't run a massive race here. Classic Anthem in the 4:45. So to the finale then of the jump season 2025. It's a 2.5 mile handicap hurdle. And this one could well go to Dan Skelton. Obviously he has a strong hand through the card. He's got a strong hand in this race at the 5-day stage as well. But I think Hidden History looks the one to be with here. Good winner at Uttoxeter over 2.5 miles last time. He really enjoyed stepping back in trip that day. Travelled very well. Put the race to bed in good style as well, beating Wellington Arch, no less, a subsequent Aintree winner. Monvial was also in the race as well. He's won well since, just to give that form an extra bit of a boost. So I think that's a really strong race, that Uttoxeter race. He won a point on good ground as well, so hopefully he'll get away with the ground on Saturday if he's allowed to take his chance in this finale. The other horse I like is Off the Jury, who is a little bit off the scale with the way that he has to be ridden. He's not the easiest conveyance, is he? And he pulls himself up a little bit in front, but he was really unlucky not to win the EBF final when Lawrence Bay beat him. Came from out the clouds under an inspired Gavin Sheehan that day and just picked off David Maxwell and Off the Jury. A horse that travels supremely well, goes okay on good ground. Really like Sandown. 2.5 looks his optimum trip as well. I think he'll run really well. Now, I haven't seen any odds for either of these two, unfortunately, as yet, but Hidden History and Off the Jury in a competitive finale would be my two against the field. All that remains is me to thank you very much for your company again this week, and indeed for your support and company all the way through the season. It's been great having you on board. I've really enjoyed True to Form and going through all the data, etc., for all the weeks and months previously. So I wish you all a very happy summer, a winning one as well, and fingers crossed we can go out with a bang at Sandown on Saturday. Thanks very much.